Okay. All right. We want to thank Hal for putting that video together. He did a really wonderful job on doing that. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's meeting. You know, any other time I can turn these stinking lights on so I can read. Okay. A few announcements. Remember, we're recording the meeting, and there's a microphone in the middle of the room that when you're going to ask a question, please use the microphone. Something that we're going to try to do, we don't know how successful it's going to be, but if you're going to use the shop, if you can try to sign in all the time when you go in there. If you go in as a monitor, sign in that you are a monitor. Trying to gauge the usage of the shop and on the days, the times, and stuff like that. So if you're a monitor and you're there the whole day, we don't want to count that as somebody in actually using the shop. We're looking for the users. So if you could do that. Another thing, show and tell, please be mindful of the time, but we don't have to really worry about that today. If you have a show and tell, we had to move it around today because they won't let us move the stage. So we had to set show and tell up over here. So if anybody has any show and tell, please bring it over here and sign in on the page. Now I know I put that in my pocket. There, that took care of the announcements. Next thing up is, I don't know if everybody knows this, but Amazon Smile. I do it and a lot of other people do it. As you can see so far this year, well through January to March, we've made $32.72 from Amazon Smile, and it's just the people using, the people that are using Amazon signs on as Amazon Smile and says they want, you know, the proceeds to go to our woodworking group. And as you see, since the conception, since we brought this in, and I don't know how long it's been, but I know it's been at least 4 years or better, we've received $633.70 from Amazon just for us buying stuff that we normally buy. And it's just about anything you buy from Amazon, we get it. So if you do a lot of shopping from Amazon, please go and use Amazon Smile. That really helps out. Next is members and our visitors. Do we have any new members tonight? Well, come on up to the microphone and tell us a story or a joke or okay. Oh, I wonder if I turned it on. Nope.
I use a saw, again, I'm kidding. My name's Dan O'Haron, 69 years old, been here in St. Louis my whole life, been married for 37 years, got 3 adult children that are terrific and 3 grandchildren that are a hoot. And yeah, that's about it. I've been, got bit by the woodworking bug probably when I was 15. In my first shop class. So I got really, really serious about it when I retired, because I got a woodworking shop out in the backyard. I had to have someplace to go to get away from Mom for a little bit. That's about it.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you and welcome. Come on up. That was just my phone.
Yeah, good evening. My name's Bob Danner. I've been a member for a few months, but this is the first time I've had the opportunity to attend a meeting. Retired Army, live and work out at Fort Leonard Wood, a couple hours west, but then we have a condo in Creve Coeur and we spend most weekends here. So using the shop on the weekends is really convenient for me. It allows me to do some things that I can't do at home. Proud owner of two, not one, but two shopsmiths, because you can never have too many shopsmiths. I've been piddling around with woodworking for several years, but I've just really gotten serious about it in the last year or two. The wife has a list of projects that she wants me to work on. And just last week, I completed a build on a George Nakashima style Coned chair. And now she says she wants 5 more, so. So I'm glad to be here.
Welcome.
I'm the art teacher from Rittner High School that does the mountain dulcimers with the kids, and they're, like I said, they're giving me a shop, and so those that have helped me out here, thank you so much for your information, and I'll continue asking for help and everything. So thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Hi, I'm Aaron Johnson, 43, just recently retired, and been doing a little bit of working on and off for years, but now I've got lots of free time on my hand and having fun putting up more equipment in my shop and trying things out. Use the shop for the first time on Sunday for that lovely jointer that you guys have, and that was amazing. I really appreciated that saving me a lot of time, so thanks for.
All right.
I'm Scott Berlinger. I was here last month as a guest, and I decided to go ahead and join. You guys look like a lot of fun, and I'm coveting the planer in the shop. I figure I'll get over there someday. As I mentioned last month, I've been doing woodworking since about 1978. Got a very compact shop in the basement that's bulging with tools, and right now I'm building some cubbies for my daughter and son-in-law and my granddaughter, and the damn things are too big to put on the router table to route the grooves, so I'm actually having to hand route everything with the router with, you know, guides on it and locking it down, and man, I forgot how much I hated that. So, but yeah, I got the bug when I was probably about 12. My uncle had a little shop in his basement, and he kept telling me that one day we were going to build a boat, and we never quite got around to it, but we did build some other things, and it kind of bit me, and I've been doing it ever since, and I've got a few scars to show for it. So, but I enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to maybe building one of those little tables. Somebody asked me about that, and I'm going to go ahead and try it.
All right.
So, thank you.
Anybody else new? Go down.
Hi, my name's Carl Fitch, friend of Bill and Bob here. They old Boy Scout buddies, and they convinced me to come to this. I've been doing woodworking off and on for 30, 40 years. Not really big into it, but being a musician since grade school, family members have been bringing me their guitars to fix, and so I've got the bug for fixing guitars and building cabinets and stuff, and Bob said I had to come or else. So here I am. Thank you, Bob.
Do we have anyone else? Come on.
Well, hi, my name's Ron Steiner. I'm a visitor tonight, and I'll probably stay a visitor. Friend of Dan Lender's over here, and also friends with Joe, the guest speaker tonight, kind of put the two of them together. I'm not a woodworker. Dan confirmed that because I told him I bought clamps, and he said, how many? And I said, 3. And he goes, no, He goes, you got to buy them in pairs, so I'm out. So anyway, I play guitar a little, and I want to hear Joe's presentation because I think he does some pretty cool stuff that I can't do. But glad to be here.
All right. Anybody else? We got a lot of new faces. Plus, we've had a couple more members that are not here tonight, but has joined since last meeting. One is Jerry Jones, and the other one is Miles Shearer. I guess I pronounced that right. So that's what, 5, 6, 7, 9 new members in the last month. So that's great. Welcome, everybody. Next, we have a little presentation here that was made by one of our members. And this one is just really great. And it's a plaque for Wayne Watson that's going to go into the shop. Don Turner made it, designed it, and well, we asked if anybody can do it, and Don said, "I'll do it." So thank you. This is really great. This is going to look good in there. It's going to go in the same spot as when you walk in. You see the Boy Scout thing. Boy Scout thing's been there long enough. It's time to stick Wayne up there. Upcoming events. Bill's going to come up and he's going to talk about our picnic.
Picnic, September 10th, 11:30 at Shaw Park. We're going to have a tour over at after the picnic over at the St. Louis Art Museum, and they're going to show us all the old furniture they have. So it should be a good outing. I want to remind everybody we're providing food, drink, but everybody should bring a side or a dessert, something like that. And I need more people to sign up so I know how much food to buy. Thanks, guys.
Right. CJ, I fixed it. Next month, Jay is going to give us a presentation on building of a dresser, of a bow dresser in a HEPA white style. And it's if any people who have seen this thing is beautiful. So this ought to be a really good presentation next month. October 20th, we're going to have a discussion about setting up a small workshop. We got some of the better woodworkers in here that are going to talk about what needs to be done to set up a small workshop. Or two. Class is coming up on September 25th. Dave Windus is going to do small box with spline miters. October 1st, I'm going to be doing a beginning turning class. October 29th, Bill and Mike Sistek is going to be doing a class on sharpening. And then in November 5th, Bill is going to take on doing a class on the large Lee dovetail jig, which ought to be really interesting. So that's the stuff that's upcoming. Community outreach tonight. Our toy drive chairman, Rich Weitzman, collected tonight 248 toys, which is great. Wayne Humphrey's in charge of our Christmas toy program. They meet on the first and third Friday at the Guild shop, and they make toys for Tots and other organizations, and it's just a nice, fun time to get together and build toys. Next up is Tom Turney, Home Sweet Home. These are some of the tables that are being built with the scrap wood that we get from the barrel manufacturer. This first round table, the guy got the pattern and the thing off of a YouTube channel, and he made that table, which is a beautiful table. And then here's two of the other designs that that we have. Both of these very similar to these. The patterns are on the website. And if you need any more wood, Tom's got some in the back end of his truck. When I got mine, there was still a bunch left. So make sure you sign the page when you get it. What's that? Oh, yeah, yeah. Is that the next one? Oh, yeah. Okay, the awesome word. There it is. Revel. Okay, tonight we have a $50 Woodcraft, a $20 Rockler, and a ink pen from Larry, that made from Larry Alvarez. So anybody, last chance for tickets.
I know as we get older, our hearing's
And sight.
there we go.
All right, and which one?
All right.
What do we got?
The 50, 20, and an ink pen.
You
Yeah, you get
draw
to pick the next
number.
one.
All right. Next number, last three digits, 736.
736. Oh, here we go. Which one?
We're gonna draw the last one for you. Last three digits, 767.
Oh! Draw another one, he said.
No. 735.
735. Oh, are we doing good?
Look at me. 744.
744. There you go. Thank you. All right. Next up, show and tell. And yes, this is my music room. I do collect, repair, and I buy a lot of old ones that people think are junk, and I turn them into something that I can play. These two in the back corner. These two I've had since I've been 16 years old, and they are playable. So I've been a musician since I was a little kid. So now show and tell. I took a class. You get a chance, you got to take a class from Bob. He's a wonderful teacher. I never really made furniture, and this is the first piece of furniture that I've made. I've never done anything mortise and tendons, and the way he taught everything, it was just so easy and just went together, and it was great. Hardest thing I had done to do on this is finding the right hinges to use, For some reason, these hinges are hard to find.
3, 4, 5.
So if you have show and tell, come on up here to the side so we can get you mic'd up. And I should have mentioned that before I got going, but. But if you do get a chance, take one of Bill's classes. They are good. Okay, the first one up will be Bill. Second one will be Larry.
Oh. I can't take credit for making this, but Wayne Watson got me on the bug of rehabbing old planes. So I bought this plane on eBay for 34 bucks. And it came in with this frog, right? That's just what I did. Oh! And I sent an email back to the seller and said, I didn't think you were really forthcoming when you said that the plane was in good condition. Well, eBay intercepted that message and stiffed her and gave me all my money back, including the shipping. So at that point, it was free. So I bought a new frog on eBay for 10 bucks, and I had everything rehabbed and cleaned up as good as I'm going to clean it up on the plane, and went to screw it in, and I couldn't get it to screw in. And it turns out that this is a newer style frog, and this is an older style frog, and I didn't know that the plane I bought was a Type 8, which is 1898 to 1902 vintage. And when you get the back part, which is what gets screwed down, you can see that the old style is shorter. So the new one was hitting in the front. So I had to turn around and buy a second frog. So anybody need a frog of a new style, I got one available. But I had no idea that the frog design had ever changed. And the new style, I don't know when that went into effect, but the old one was still there in 1902. And this all started because I own a plane that I inherited from my dad that I assumed all these years, and I never looked at it close enough, obviously, that I assumed was a number 4. And turns out it was a number 3. So I got this bug that I had to buy a number 4. So that's what this is. That's my story. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Name is Larry Alvarez, and I just brought in a selection of pins I've made this year with different materials and different pin kits. I got abalone shell, I got a rifle kind of bullet pin, and this one's out of cactus with turquoise inlaying. This is deer antler. Cocobolo, a little bit more expensive pen, and then I made myself a desk pen and pencil set. And I also made about 50 or 60 pens already this year, and I've given away about 25 of them to people I know that have been graduating or birthdays and that so far this year. All right, thank you.
My wife heard about all of the toys that we're making for kids for the hospitals and so forth. And so she suggested that I take one of the plans and make a Christmas present for my nephew. So I enlarged it so that it was made a bigger truck and then painted it. And then I turned barrels to make a load for the back of the truck. Cool.
We could not, like I said, we couldn't move the stage, so we couldn't do anything.
Love the barrel. Beautiful.
We have Joe and look at Joe. Come on up. All right.
Actually, we can take those all out of the cases. Got all the pieces here. Okay. Well, I'm going to bend aside for you all tonight, and I will admit that bending wood kept me from building any guitars for years. I repaired for years before I worked up the nerve to bend wood, and it turns out with the right tools, there's not much to it. And I brought several pieces. I don't know if anybody has any questions about tone wood or anything like that. We can talk about that too. This will take 20 minutes or so for me to bend the side.
And you're going to actually heat that up?
Yes, yes. That came out of there. I got it in there at home. probably about more junk than I needed to do this actually, but I didn't know how many questions anybody might have or anything. So this instrument's going to be what Martin calls a 00 size, which is a fairly small guitar. Would be that'd be the size, and it'll be 12 frets to the body. And this is a piece of mahogany about 70 thousandths thick, and if you want to pass that around, you can. And that's about how I buy the wood. That one has a big knot in it, which people would call a flaw, but oh well. Oh, good, Carl. Yeah. So this is the side I'm going to bend. Started out like that bigger piece of wood, and you can see it's got a curve on the back there. I use a template, and this actually is not quite the right template, but it's the same size, just a little bit longer, because this is for just a slightly larger guitar. Excuse me. So, and this is my form that I'll bend it around. The bolt is just to hold the form so it's not sliding around, so I'll get the waist bent at the right spot. So basically what happens is plain old aluminum foil from Aldi. Nothing special, and brown paper from the hardware store. Just need it a little longer than my piece of wood. And then I just use plain tap water. It doesn't need to be super wet. And I must have bled on it earlier today. A little red spot. I'll have to charge more for that. Oh, and before I get too far, just so I don't bend the same side twice, I've marked the flat side as the top, and this is the inside. And you don't have to ask how I learned that. And you can bend it back and bend it the other way. Just to make sure. Okay. I gotta check again because I don't want to bend it the wrong way. Okay, we're good. I think. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be too perfect in there. And And then got two 25,000 steel slats with lines on them for the waste, and reminds me I need to do the measure on this. Where did my tape measure go? Because my piece of wood is only about 2 inches longer than the side is actually going to be, so I got to get pretty close. All right. So this whole thing just gets sandwiched together. And it is a little weird getting it all together. You're all right, no matter what Cindy said about you, Carl. Okay, I've got a line on the top of this piece of steel here, so I'm going to try to keep that all lined up pretty well there. Then tighten it down a little bit just to hold it in place. Get it squared up with the side. This is just a heating blanket. It'll go up to about 500 degrees, but we don't need to get that hot. I'm just clamping this so that I'll get good heat transfer. All right, now we're ready to start. This is just a router speed control. Works just fine as a temperature control. Got a 15-minute timer and surface thermometers. And these are supposed to be good ones, and they read somewhere between 25 and 50 degrees apart. I've got a pile of cheap ones. They're kind of for reference. It's almost more than actual temperature, I think. I don't know if, you know, I guess you'd have to have something of a known temperature to gauge them, but yeah, it's starting to get hot there. And while we're waiting for that, we're actually just waiting. So thought I'd show you a couple other things here. This is eventually, this is what that frame will look like. And then this is the back that will go on. This is cherry and maple, and this wood was, I made a guitar for a guy with wood that was milled on his property in Pennsylvania, and these were the leftover pieces. So it's all notched so it fits in there.
So what is your heater blanket temperature set for?
I've got it, I'm going to run a little hot. I'll run it up to somewhere between 300 and 350. 350 is kind of on the high side. And you can scorch the wood. And then this is a sort of red spruce top with a spalted maple rosette in it, and let's see here. I drew circles on there. If you just tap it kind of right in the center there, I don't know, can you guys hear that? Okay, no need to pass that around then. But that's, people tap for all kinds. People say, tap tuning, and I understand what they're talking about, but I don't buy it because every time you do something to the wood, it changes it. When I start, this is a big piece of wood, but this piece started out something like that. So when I'm looking for wood, that's what I'm doing. Now see that really rings. I think that'll make a loud, good sounding guitar, provided I do everything else right. And different woods have different tones. This was Sitka spruce, and this is cedar. But I don't know if you can hear how it kind of rings, then fades, then comes back just a little bit. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And then this is a piece of redwood, and everybody talks about how soft redwood is. This is harder than some of the hardest red spruce I've ever heard. This is really hard wood. So I think that will be loud. And then, pardon? These are all I haven't, I don't think I brought my dial calipers with me. This is probably 225 thousandths thick. This one's maybe 180. This one's probably 200 somewhere in there. And then I brought this down, didn't write it on here. It's probably somewhere between 110 thousandths and 125 thousandths. And and then this is just a template with the bracing pattern for that guitar. So let's see here. Yeah, so that shows you where the braces will go. And then Carl and I took a class last year from a guy who I think he's a good teacher. I'm not sure that he builds the greatest guitars in the world, but he's figured out a way in a week to build a pretty nice guitar with students. And this is his bracing pattern. I will probably never use this top. I do not care, but they don't sound bad. This one is, so this is an Engelmann spruce, and this is Sitka spruce. But this will sort of give you an idea of the bracing. And the Granadillo, or those are rosewood bridge plates in there. And then, let's see, we're getting kind of hot enough there to start cranking on this a little bit. You can see it's the water's starting to boil there, it's starting to steam a little bit. Crank it a little bit down. I don't go all the way. I want to kind of relax it into place, not to.
And if you do have questions, please come up here and use the microphone
Yeah,
so
please
everybody
feel free
can
to
hear.
ask questions, yeah. Yes.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Are there any specialized tools that you must have in order to be a luthier? Or can I just blast that stuff through my thickness planer and get it down to?
I do have a thickness planer. Rarely use it. It will just destroy figured woods. Any curl and stuff, it'll just eat it. So yeah, there are a lot of specialty tools. Like cutting out the sides and that kind of stuff. That's basically bandsaw and my 6x48 belt sander. I also have a horizontal belt sander and an oscillating spindle sander, which when I first saw it, I thought I'll never use that. I use it constantly. The specialty tools really come in a lot of the final details, fretting tools and files. Let's see, I mean, I couldn't live without my bandsaw, my 6x48 belt sander, and I also have an old Enco mill drill machine that, man, if that thing ever dies, I'm not sure what I'll do. 'Cause it's a way cool machine. I just slot my bridges with it, and actually shape the bridges with it too, because I'm somewhat allergic to routers. I use them, but they're dangerous. And I like the idea of with the milling machine, I clamp it in place and crank, things around. Okay, and basically all I'm doing here is that spring tension is bringing that around. Yeah. I think they're reading way different than they did this afternoon, because I've had it set way hotter than I did this afternoon. So, and we've got about 8 or 9 minutes to go still. Let's see, I'm trying to think of other specialty tools. Lots of little scrapers, a thickness sander. The one I have is great, but it's finicky, and as the way I understand it from talking to other luthiers, it's really slow no matter how big a one you have. But that one, that's how I got the sides down to, I actually got these sides a few thousandths thinner than I had intended to, just because my machine's not that accurate, and then I had to clean up the 80 grit sanding scratches. So, let's see, while we're waiting for that, this guitar is sold. Let's see, I still need to shape the neck. The body is done. It's ready for final sanding and put the finish on. Need to drill the holes for the tuners. Lots of it's like, it's almost done except for all that other stuff that you still need to do. So this I use carbon fiber 1/8 by 3/8 carbon fiber bars in there to stiffen the neck, and then there's a two-way truss rod that will move the neck back and forth. And if you promise not to drop this, I'll pass it around too. It is sold. And you don't want to buy it, I don't think, probably. And I have gotten into using carbon fiber, and this back needs a lot of cleaning up still, but this is the first time I've done this, where on the, I don't have a back here that you can see, or it's going around the room, I guess. But usually I've always just done spruce. And there was a guy named Rick Turner who recently died, who worked with everybody, Crosby, Stills, Nash Young, Grateful Dead, had been around forever doing all kind of stuff. And actually my last communication with him was, can I use some of your ideas in my guitars? And he was always really great about that. And he said, put a thin carbon fiber strip over the top of the braces. And I can't believe how much that stiffened this backup, I mean. And by itself, the carbon fiber, I mean, you can bend it in a circle. But it really stiffened this up, and kind of what people are going for these days is a reflective back instead of a responsive back, because they want the back to be stiff to reflect the sound rather than vibrate. So be interesting to see how this turns out. Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here, Joe. Do you make your own jigs, or do you buy those?
This is bought. I do make my own, though, and I probably think I gave the one that I made like this away. But I make what's called an octave mandolin. It's kind of a teardrop shape, so I made all that myself. And then lately I've taken to making this part myself. I've got a store that wants me to build really, really high-end instruments, and They wanted me to make my own shape and design my own guitar, which is a little weird because there's not that, you know, they're tweaks. But I had to make a form and, you know, do that. So yeah, so they're not hard to make. It's basically Baltic birch plywood, and there's no reason it needs to be Baltic birch plywood. It could be, you know, and then just hollow metal bars in there. And I have made them out of particle board solid. Don't know that there's any big advantage to that, except it makes it really heavy and you can't hang them up.
And I was trying to follow the sandwich that you have with the wood in between.
Yes.
Can you describe just what the layers are?
Okay, sure. I start out with aluminum foil, and then it's just I've had this for years. Just bought it at Home Depot, and I saw they have it at Ace Hardware. Whatever this brown paper is called, I don't even know what it's called. So, and then you just I lay the paper on the foil and squirt down the paper, and then squirt down the side a little bit. And I'm not soaking it. I want it all wet, but it's not water running all over the place. Then turn the side over, squirt it, fold the paper over and squirt it, and then fold it up into the aluminum foil. And then the two slats, it goes between the two stainless steel slats, and then the heating blanket goes on top. Okay. And then this actually did jump up there. We're almost to 350, so, and that's kind of where I intended to go to kind of speed this up a little bit. You're welcome. And usually what would happen is I would let this cool off to room temperature. We'll let it cool off until I can handle it, and I'll take it out of there and we'll put it in the form, see what happens. Yes?
Wood. I know it's been off the market since '95.
I have 3 sets of Brazilian rosewood, and I've used it for bridges, and if anybody needs a left-handed Gibson bridge, because I cut the slot the wrong way, let me know, Brazilian rosewood.
I have blocks of it I turn with, but is it truly what I used to hear, the holy grail of tone wood?
Depends on who you talk to.
Martin used to use
Well,
Martin guitars.
you know, Martin quit using it back in the 60s because they would buy logs from Brazil and mill it themselves. And up until recently, Martin milled all of their own wood. They would buy logs and mill it. But Brazil, I don't know, it was like 1966 or 7 or something, decided that they would only sell milled wood. And so then Martin switched to East Indian rosewood. It's good wood. Brazilian rosewood is really nice wood, but there's a pile of really nice wood. East Indian rosewood, in fact, I have a bourgeois guitar that I bought, and I had 2 of them because my brother-in-law actually bought me one. And I bought the East Indian rosewood one because I liked it better, and then he bought me the Brazilian rosewood one, and I sold it.
Do you have a favorite tone wood for side and the back, and Sitka spruce for the top?
That depends too on the market you're selling for. Factory guitars, and I'm learning this. I'm supposed to build a $7,500 guitar for a store, and when I was talking to the guy, I told him, I said, oh, I've got this beautiful curly mahogany, and his reaction was, oh, well, I guess we could sell that, and I was like, really, you know, what in this high-end stuff is a whole different ball game than you know what 2 years ago I would have called a great guitar, and what people want: Cocobolo, Brazilian rosewood, koa, curly koa, those kinds of wood for the back and sides, and it has to be European spruce for the top. Red spruce and Sitka spruce that's just what everybody uses.
Would you say what for the top?
Italian spruce,
Okay.
German spruce, and years ago I talked to a guy that dealt in wood, and he said, you know, once you put a finish on it, nobody can tell what kind of spruce it is. So I call it luthier BS. There's so many great woods out there. There's one of my favorite ones is called Granadillo. It's dark like rosewood. I think it's prettier than rosewood. It makes great octave mandolins, and this guitar is Granadillo. I think, I'm not bragging on myself. People say that they like my guitars, but I think it has more to do with the builder than what kind of wood. I think it's more what you do with it. And there is good wood, like hickory wouldn't work for back and sides because it's so twisted and stringy. It'd be really difficult to bend, but that doesn't mean somebody couldn't use it.
How do you attach the graphite fiber to the wood?
Pardon?
How do you attach the graphite fiber to the wood?
Super glue.
Wow. And are you otherwise using hide glue?
No, I use, a lot of people, too many great guitars have been built using tight bond, so I kind of think that the hide glue, I'm not knocking hide glue, it's good glue. But your joints have to be perfect for it to work, which is part of the reason it works so well, because good joints are better than lousy ones. Tight bond, what do they call it? PVA glues are a little more forgiving as far as that. But hide bond hide glue is great glue, but I think it's a lot of marketing hype because there's a lot of marketing in this. Okay, well we're done here. It just shut off. Any more questions or? Okay, yeah.
Are you going to cover finishing?
I can. My shop is in my basement, so nitrocellulose, which is what everybody wants because old Martins and Gibsons used it, is out of the question. It's pretty nasty. It's not good for you to breathe, and it gases off forever. My wife has asthma and allergies, and I don't like the way it smells. In fact, working with it, it seriously makes me want to kill myself. I just get this weight of the world feeling if I breathe it. So I don't like it. I use Target Coatings EM6000. It's a water-based lacquer, and I've had a lot of people, a lot of builders I respect walk up and say, "Oh, is that nitrocellulose?" And everybody, a lot of the water-based finishes. For a long time, I've used some. A long time ago, there was one called KTM9 that was just hideous. My first guitar, I think I finished it 3 times and finally used nitrocellulose on it because it would when you sanded it, the powder, if you got any of the white powder in a joint somewhere, it did, when you resprayed over it, it stayed white. It was terrible to use. But this stuff, I try to spray thin coats, and I use a water-based pore filler, which I've never found a pore filler that I'm thrilled with. Epoxy, but I don't like working with it. And I don't know if on this guitar, I think you can see where the finish is beginning to sink into the pores, and I kind of like that look because it tells me that the finish is relatively thin. On the high-end stuff, a lot of people want it to look like a mirror, and I don't like that look because then if you scratch it, it looks terrible, And if you play it, they're going to get beat up if you play them. For the Target Coat, for the EM6000, depending on how it's going on, it takes me 2 or 3 days to put the finish on. I'll put 6 or 7 coats on. About 35 minutes apart during the day, and in 20 minutes you can touch it, and it won't, you won't leave fingerprints or anything. You can pick it up and carry it around. So if you get a piece of hair in there or something, you can sand it out. In fact, I would never do this with nitrocellulose. You get something in it, you wait, and then you sand it out. This, if something floats into it, I'll go, and I can sand it out later. And 2 minutes after I'm done spraying, you'd never know I sprayed anything. It does have a slight odor. It's a little weird at first because it's kind of milky blue looking. And when you spray it on, if you get it on heavy, it kind of turns white, and it's like, oh man, this is not good. But it clears up real quickly, and like nitrocellulose, it will remelt into itself for 48 hours. So you've got 48 hours to keep spraying. You can build it up as much as you want. So at the end of the first day, I'll go over it, look for any pinholes around the binding or anything and I'll either use super glue or drop fill it with the finish. Next morning, sand it back and then start spraying. And then and it depends on how thick it's going on. Because it's always, every time you set up a spray gun, it seems like it's different. So if it's going on kind of thick, it'll take me 2 days and I'll be happy with it. If it's going on thin, I might put another 4 or 5 coats on the third day. Then I let it sit for a week. And this stuff you can sand and buff the next day, but it looks better if you let it wait for a week. Yeah, we're almost down to 200 degrees now, so.
Hi. Who did you say is the manufacturer of that EM6000?
It's Target Coatings.
Target, okay.
Yeah, and I think their website is just target.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have several. They have a varnish that I'm kind of anxious to try too, because people think varnish is better, and not that varnish is nice and it looks good, but I think how thin the finish is more important than what the finish is.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ron, we're waiting here. You want to come up and play a song for us? But you can play them a lot better than I do, so.
Excuse me. Could you grab this? I'm just gonna put this on there.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine.
Great. So I've been playing for over 50 years. Started when I was a senior in high school. Now I'm just a senior. But when I decided to get a retirement guitar, that I deserved one, I spent about 1.5 years looking for one, and I knew the sound, and I was in a music store outside of Washington, D.C., and I went through an entire store, and the very last guitar that I picked up was, I just hit a chord and it was like, that's the sound I've been looking for. So I bought that one, kept it for about 5 years. Turns out it was, the neck was a little too narrow by 1/16 of an inch, and size matters. So, and the body was too large for my style of playing, so I sold it and got something more fitting. But in case you're looking for something, my favorite wood combination was Madagascar rosewood, Carpathian spruce top, and hide glue. And that's what that one had. So, but anyway, I'll see what I can do with one of yours.
Okay, yeah, this is Granadillo back inside. It's curly mahogany binding, mahogany, zircony, and maple for the neck, Granadillo headstock veneer, ebony fingerboard and bridge, red spruce top, and I call this my scrap wood guitar. It's got a sap spot here. It's a 6-piece back. These were orphan sides that I bought and glued together for the back, and the neck was a cut off from another neck, so it's got a heel glued on and a little piece glued on up here, and it's not for sale for all those reasons.
My wife will probably be glad to hear that. So, take this up. Let's see. Wow. So, just in case this came up, I was thinking about that this afternoon, in case we got called on. And I thought, what could be more appropriate for this group than Mr. Sandman? So, I'll give that a whirl.
really does sound nice. Thanks. This really does sound nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Sure.
You were talking about specialized tools. The templates are nice to have, and I have made a lot of those myself. Several good straight edges, different lengths, definitely important. And then this handy little thing for what this tells you is if your neck is on the body straight. Let's see if I can. Don't usually do it with strings on, but. So it just squeezes up against the sides of the fingerboard, and my center line is right between the third and fourth strings there. It's a little disappointing sometimes. Like that one there, I'm gonna have to tweak. It's about down here. It's about a 16th off to one side. So, but I need to finesse that a little bit anyway. Okay. Anybody want to see this one? And I use a bolt-on neck as well. The fingerboard tongue is glued on, but I use Elmer's white glue to glue the fingerboard tongue on. It's not a structural joint. It just needs to stay down to the top.
Do you fret your fingerboards yourself, or do you buy them pre-fretted?
I slot them myself. I have a template system, and I use actually, I walked into Rockler one day, and they were closing out an old model of jet table saw. It was like $300, $350, and I was like, I need another table saw. So it's set up for slotting the fingerboards.
Okay. Got a special ground narrow blade, is that the
Yes,
idea?
yep, it's like 23,000, 24,000, I think. And
I know.
that matches the tang on the fret.
Yeah, Warren May down in Berea, Kentucky, he's got a gang saw.
Okay, yeah.
For his dulcimers, where he just cuts all the slots at one push.
I would like to have that set up. You know, there's famous stories about old Gibson guitars that won't play in tune. And the story is that they used gang saws, but the blades would get dull, so they had to change the blades. They wouldn't always get the spacers back in the right place. I had a mandolin that a guy sent me, and you could see on a mandolin the bridge is movable, and you could see it was like a 1920 something mandolin, and that bridge had been all over the top, but it was never going to play in tune because and you could look at it and see frets up here were closer together than they were down here. It's like, man, this is a mess. And just replace the fingerboard, and it's a nice mandolin. All right, in a second here, we'll be ready to pull this thing out of here. And there are more elegant ways than these big spring clamps, but when I'm getting set up, I use these clamps to hold things in place in the form. And when I start actually building on it, I've got inside just basically a piece of plywood with two dowels on it and a turnbuckle that pushes it out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's the typical amount of time to make a guitar?
I'm about to find that out. I've never just built a guitar before because I always repaired. I repaired for several music stores around here for a long time, so I always had something else going on, and the building. I think I could, if I just threw everything else out of the shop, started, I could have the woodworking done in a couple of weeks, no problem, including waiting for glue dry and stuff. Then another, 2 or 3 days for finishing, and a week to buff it out, sand it and buff it out, and then a good day or two to get the frets in, get the bridge glued on. So I'd say if I was really pushed to do it, I could build a guitar in a month, probably no sweat.
Do you have any employees that help you?
I do not.
You're one man show.
I'm just getting into basically what I've just recently decided that I'll repair on Mondays and then build the rest of the week. I'd really like to just build all the time, but people know me from repairing and they keep calling, and it's a little hard to turn that money down. It's a lot easier to get $50 from somebody than it is $5,000, you know. Yeah, we're down to 100 degrees here, so I'm gonna take that out of here. Now I'm guessing it'll probably still look a little wet on the ends, but it should be just fine. And if you decide to do this, this solid piece here is great because I used to use hooks on there. Those springs fly if they pop off of there, and it can be scary. I thought my assistant would have like an evening gown on or something. Oh, probably should have brought a trash can. That looks like that's staying, that can stay there. That can stay there. Yeah. I'm going to have foil all over the place. Is there in my shop, it just ends up on the floor until I pick it up. And there we are. And now I will admit this was a pretty easy bends. There's no sharp bends like on this guitar. This bend is scary, and I've broken pieces doing that. Pardon? No, I don't. I made a form for it, and basically the way I would bend it is put everything in the form just like this, except I would squeeze this in a little bit, and I would just have the waist tight enough to hold it in place. And then I've got another piece that squeezes in, kind of holds it in there, and kind of work these two against each other, so you're not bending this and then bending that whole thing all at one shot. It's kind of going easy on it. But yeah, actually, when I first designed this guitar shape, I had to soften that curve just a little bit. I had it a little too tight. But there is another way to do it too, where you've seen it with a point. Yeah, and that's a separate piece of wood there. So that's not even warm now. It's done. So. It looks like I managed to bend two different sides, not the same one twice. So basically, I have a really real thin saw, and I'll just put it in there and saw that, and then do the same thing up here. This is not critical that it's you know, a good cut, as long as you don't get, you know, an inch wide or something, because you put decoration there. And this end is hidden behind the neck, but it's kind of nice if you can get that perfect, you know. So there we have it. Anybody got any more questions or anything? Or
Are you familiar with Worthington guitars?
yeah, oh yeah, Danny Worthington? Is it
Yeah.
Dan?
I have one,
Okay.
but it needs a neck reset.
Oh, man.
Okay, I thought so.
Well, the thing with neck resets is you need to know what the joint is, what adhesive they used, if it's a glued-in neck joint. And I think those are.
It looks to be to me. There's no, it's not bolting.
Okay. So yeah, so that would be, you know, that's, without knowing that stuff, that's not something I would do.
And on your temperature sensors, I could look at them and see, but most of the time, years ago when I was a mechanic, you'd always leave those thermostats in the car when you were working in air conditioning, so you'd buy 4 or 5 of them at a time. What we would do is get a glass of ice water and put them all in that glass of ice water, and then the back twist to calibrate them.
Oh,
That may be the way to
okay,
calibrate those
maybe.
two.
Oh, good, good. Here's a question for you. How a friend of mine came up with this on tire gauges. How do you know they're accurate? What do they measure them against when you go buy one?
Kind of like whether the pitcher's got it in the strike zone or the ball's in
A friend of mine asked that, and I was like, okay, yeah, how do you know that? All right. And if anybody, you know, I've got some cards here if you want to get hold of me, if you have any questions, think anything down the road. And, you know, anybody that builds instruments. Oh, I wanted to mention, there's a group on Facebook called the Gateway Area Luthiers Association. I think Gateway Area Luthiers Association, I think it is. And it's a very loose group. It's not really the Gateway area. There are people farther away than that. Get together once a year down at Hidden Hardwoods, and unfortunately they're closing next year, so this is probably the second to last meeting we'll have down there. But there's some good advice on there, some bad advice too, just like the internet. Yes, sir.
Man.
Let's see. Yeah, what's the guy's name? Let me give you a card and call me. I've got the book at home. It's one of the better ones, and it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't tell you everything. None of them tell you everything. And there's some really expensive ones, and it's kind of picking.
Urban Samoji, for instance.
Don't buy that book. Don't buy those books. Or I don't want to say anything bad about anybody. No, he builds great guitars. Strange dude. And you know, a lot of really well-known luthiers too are happy to answer questions. This Rick Turner guy, like I said, he played with Ian and Sylvia in the 60s, went out to California, got hooked up with the Grateful Dead, helped invent their great big wall of sound system, invented a ton of guitar pickups. He's the guy that got me using carbon fiber, really respected traditional instruments, but wasn't afraid to use new technology either. He died, I think it was in March or April, and man, I miss that guy already. You call him and it's like he's waiting there for you to call, and he's running the factory. You know, he would answer, and there's a lot of people that are willing to help. There's two luthiers organizations. The Guild of American Luthiers is up in Washington and Washington State, And then one called Asia, the Association of String Instruments Artisans, which is all online now. They used to have a magazine until this year. A lot of good information in those two places too.
You said that you make about, it takes about 30 days for you to make a guitar if you really start from start to finish. How many do you produce at a time? Is that, do you do a batch where you do
You know, I've only built about a dozen guitars, well, maybe 20. But I was building octave mandolins and banjos, and I would build batches of those. Sometimes the octave mandolins, I'd get 4 of them going at one time. And that does kind of speed things up because it does, you know, you don't have to set up every time for each operation. And like the banjo rims, you know, I did block rims where they were not bent rims, they were glued together blocks. And, you know, so I could glue up, you know, 6 or 8 of them at a time, and then just, I used my milling machine, and I'm afraid of lathes. They scare the heck out of me. So I had a rotary table and a milling machine, and I'd turn it.
I've never done a musical instrument in my life. Can you go through the process of how you would start to do a guitar from start to finish? Do you start with the sides, front, back? How does it go about the steps you would use from start to finish?
Well, actually, even before that, you'd need to figure out the details of what you're going to do, what your scale length is going to be. This guitar here, it has a 20, these two both have 25.4, which is standard Martin scale length. And the size of the guitar, like this is called the triple O. This one I just bent the sides on is called a double O. And there's really not that much difference in the size. Or tell you what, rather than having this heavy thing by that guitar, since this one is the same. So you need to kind of decide what, I don't know if you can really see how little difference there is, but they're 2 different sizes. You know, it's less than ½ an inch in every direction. So now, like this guitar, you know, you'd probably use a 25 or 24.9 or even 24.6 inch scale. And this guitar is not going to be a big, loud strummer. More of a finger picker probably, or just a quiet guitar to sit around and play. Where these guitars, that just that much difference in size, you know, you can do, it's a little more versatile, and then you get to what they call the dreadnought size, where you can really hammer away on it. The first thing you would, I think, would decide would be the scale length. And the only way to decide that is go play a bunch of guitars and measure the scale length, see what feels good to you. And then the neck width, like Ron says, a 1/16 of an inch on the neck up here at the nut is a huge amount. It totally changes the way the guitar feels. And then so once you get the scale length, then you can start kind of deciding on what wood you want to use. And for, you know, for a first guitar, you don't need to buy real expensive wood. And actually, those sides were scraps, not scraps, cast off from Hibden. They, you know, because they had a little knot in them. Like I'm feeding back here, I guess must be standing in the wrong place or something. So then, man, that's a good question. Where do I start? I think I usually do start with the sides, joining the top and the back, and then making the sides. You know, and it's a
sides. You'd put in that extra supports. You do the front and back, fit the neck. I mean, is that kind of the standard?
Kind of, and then like I'm like when I'm, as you know, Ron doesn't know how many clamps you really need. So I've got about 300 little clamps that go around here, and I can do both sides of this kerfing at the same time. So when I'm gluing that, then I'm probably gluing braces on the back too. And just stuff like that. You're going back and forth because you have to wait for glue to dry.
Sure.
And with the PVA glues, I did not say which one I used. I get it from Lee Valley, yeah. It's their cabinet maker's glue, that brown cabinet maker's glue. I love that stuff. I use it for almost everything. Thank you. And then, you know, and then when you're, once you, and another thing you need, like this guitar, let's see, wait a minute, the one I just bent is going to have 12 frets to the body, so the body will come up to this fret right here. And that's another thing you need to, you know, kind of need to decide what model you're going to build, and that doesn't mean it can't be your own original model. It just has to make sense, you know. And so that measurement there would determine where the length of your neck, and you know. And so while I'm doing that stuff too, I'm probably like I like laminated necks. I think it looks really cool, and it means I can go to Rockler and pick out through their curly maple, which is mostly slab sawn, and most of this wood, all of this wood is quarter sawn. But when you like the boards that they have at Woodcraft and Rockler, it's slab sawn. But if you rip it down the middle and turn it up, you got pretty close to quarter sawn. So and that's as it's real. Quarter sawn wood is really weak this way and really strong this way. And that's what you want, is that strength, because that's the way the string tension runs. So yeah, feel free to, you know, call me or email me and stuff.
Thank you.
I probably give you a more coherent answer. All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hey, let me throw, where did my tuner go? What did I do with that? Yeah.
Yep.